Okay, so chances are you've probably reached for one of these at some point, right? A little pill to deal with that uncomfortable stomach acid. But have you ever stopped to think about how they really work? Because it's not just magic. It's this incredible story of signals, tiny little pumps, and some seriously clever science. So let's get into it.
Yeah, we've all been there. That burning feeling after a big meal. You pop a pill and poof, it gets better. But what is actually going on in there? It's way more interesting than just, pouring water on a fire. It's actually a tale of two completely different and frankly brilliant strategies.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to take a quick tour of the stomach's acid factory. Then we'll look at the two main ways we can control it, either by blocking the signal or shutting down the pump. We'll put them head to head and then wrap up with what all this actually means for you. Sound good?
Okay, first things first. We need to understand the machinery we're dealing with. Let's take a look inside the stomach's own little acid factory.
So picture this. Inside your stomach lining, you've got this molecule called histamine. And you can think of histamine as a little text message. It gets sent to this tiny, tiny engine called the proton pump. And when the proton pump gets that message, its job is to start making acid. That's it. A message and an engine.
So let's trace that pathway, step by step. First, some special cells release that histamine, our messenger. That histamine then zips over and connects to a very specific docking station. It's called an H2 receptor. Think of it like a key fitting into a lock. Once it's in, that connection flips the on switch for the proton pump. And boom, the pump starts churning out acid. It's a super efficient little chain of command.
Okay, so if we want to turn down the acid, what are our options? Well, the first strategy is pretty simple, logically speaking. What if we could just intercept the message? Stop it from ever being delivered. And that's exactly what our first type of medicine does.
These guys are called H2 antagonists, or you'll probably hear them called H2 blockers. And their whole job, their entire mission, is to get in the way of that initial signal. So the whole acid-making process never even gets started.
And the key word here is competitively. Basically, the H2 blocker rushes to that H2 receptor, that docking station, and just parks itself there. It's like a bouncer at a nightclub who takes up the whole doorway. When histamine, the real guest, shows up, it literally can't get in. The spot is taken. And if the histamine can't dock, the signal never gets sent. No signal, no acid.
But what if we didn't bother with the messenger at all? What if we could just walk onto the factory floor and pull the plug on the main engine? Well, that brings us to solution number 2, which is a much more direct approach.
Say hello to the Proton Pump Inhibitor, or PPI. Now, this drug couldn't care less about the histamine messenger. Nope, it goes straight for the big prize, the machine itself, that proton pump. It targets the final step in the whole process.
And this is where it gets so cool. A PPI is kind of like a secret agent. It travels through your body totally inactive. It's what we call a prodrug. It only activates when it gets to the super acidic environment right where the proton pumps are working. Think about that. It uses the very thing it's designed to fight, the acid, to flip its own on switch. It's just brilliant.
So once it's activated, this PPI hunts down a proton pump and latches on with an incredibly strong chemical bond. And here's the kicker. It's irreversible. This is not like our bouncer who just blocks the door for a little while. Oh no, this is like a saboteur who goes into the factory, finds the machine, and welds it shut. That pump is permanently, 100% out of commission.
So that explains why the effect of a PPI lasts for so long, right? Because that bond is permanent. The only way for your body to get back to making acid from that spot is to literally build a brand new proton pump from the ground up. And that takes time. We're talking 24 to 48 hours to manufacture a new one.
All right, so we've met our two contenders, the signal blocker and the pump inhibitor. Two totally different ways of getting the job done. So let's put them side by side and see how they really stack up.
Let's just run through the main differences here. The H2 blocker, our bouncer, targets the H2 receptor, right? While the PPI, our saboteur, goes right for the proton pump itself. The mechanism? The H2 blocker is just a temporary, competitive block, but the PPI forms that permanent, irreversible bond. The H2 blocker is always active, ready to go. The PPI is that clever prodrug that needs acid to get activated. And all of that leads to the biggest difference, duration. You've got the shorter-acting blocker versus the powerhouse PPI that lasts 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, so why does any of this matter? What does this mean for you?
Well, knowing how your medicine works is actually super empowering. It takes you from just blindly taking a pill to really understanding the strategy behind it, and maybe why a doctor might suggest one over the other.
So the big picture here, the main takeaway is this. We've got two different drugs with two absolutely brilliant mechanisms that are both designed to tackle the exact same problem. They just do it in different ways. You've got the H2 blocker, the bouncer, which is great for quick temporary relief, for that one-off bad meal. Then you have the PPI, the saboteur, which is a much bigger gun, designed for persistent long-term control by shutting the whole factory down for a day or two. One is for a quick fix, the other is for lasting maintenance.
And there you have it, the tale of two stomach meds. Now you know the real difference between just blocking a signal and completely shutting down the pump. And hopefully, having that knowledge in your back pocket makes you feel a little more prepared, a little more empowered for the next time you talk to your doctor or pharmacist. So the only question left is, knowing what you know now, what will you ask them?